you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O's, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
all in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O's, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years, Raymond Moore
The sickest NHL podcast. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here on the Sick Podcast Network. He is Pierre McGuire. I am Jimmy Murphy. Pierre, how are we doing today, my friend?
Excellent, Jimmy. Excellent. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm, not hockey related, but I'm very excited for a certain football game tonight. My Notre Dame Irish taking on the Penn State Nittany Lions in the semifinals for the college football playoff. Looking forward to that and looking forward to some great hockey along with that. I will have all the laptops and TVs rolling here tonight. So a lot of TV watching here in the Murphy abode. So, Pierre, what games are you going to be looking at tonight?
I'll be watching Toronto, Carolina. I think it's really an important game for both teams. Obviously, Toronto's playing really well. They've won 5 in a row. They're 7-3-0 in their last 10. And for Carolina, you look at them, they got the team on paper. They're 4-5-1 their last 10. So they're not where they exactly wanted to be. We talked about it at the beginning of the year. When Donnie Waddell moved on, this was going to be a referendum on analytics.
Yes.
The team is built on analytics. And so we don't know how it's going to end up. But right now, I think the experiment is probably 50-50, if you want to be honest.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see how it plays out long-term for Carolina. We really will. That's one of the games. The other one, New Jersey and New York. The Rangers and the Devils. And there's a reason why. Obviously, the Devils off a mediocre road trip. Not where they want to be. They won the last game of the trip in Seattle, but a mediocre road trip for them. And for the Rangers, 3-6-1. Shesterkin's coming back tonight, so I'll be watching that game as well. But the big focus for me tonight, honestly, will be Toronto and Carolina.
And, of course, you will be doing the Bet Rivers Leafs post-game Toronto Sports Rush.
Yes.
For all you Leafs fans out there, check that out. Pierre does a great job on that, as he does here. With that Rangers-Devils, too, before we move on here, Pierre, and get into something that we wanted to do yesterday, let's not forget, too, I mean, what was it, a 5-1 drubbing I think the Devils gave the Rangers the last time they played. It has not gone pretty. I think the Rangers have actually lost 3 straight to the Devils dating back to last season. So it's not been a great thing when they meet their cross-river rival there. So this, every game is huge, obviously, for the Rangers. But if you're looking to kind of jump onto things to kind of grab momentum, if they can beat their rival here and really kind of hopefully catapult from that, this is a big game. I mean, they're all big right now, but this is one of those you look at, even if they weren't in a tailspin they're in, I'm sure when they looked at the calendar in the beginning of the year, they always circle the Devils Rangers. So those are always fun games to watch. Yep. I'll be watching Bruins Lightning, Pierre, and, that game really, we talk about a team in a tailspin right now. Well, the Bruins are starting. I don't know if I'll call it that yet. It's 5 games without a win, but they're spiraling right now, and they're playing a team that's right up against them in the standings. That if they beat the Bruins tonight, the Tampa Bay Lightning will jump into that 3rd spot in the Atlantic. The Bruins will drop back into the wild card spot, and also Tampa has 5 games in hand on the Boston Bruins. And then when you look at their goal differential, it's insane, Pierre. I mean, we were talking about
Bruins are minus 24. They have the worst goal differential of any playoff team on either side of the ledger.
And
it's not even close.
The Lightning are plus 33.
Yeah, no, it's not even close.
It's insane.
So here's the one that will not go away, and they can say whatever they want in Boston. Special teams quotient. Special teams quotient for the Bruins. 88.3.
Yep.
You usually don't make the playoffs unless you're around 105.
Yeah.
They're at 88.3.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah. Look, for the last couple weeks, maybe even a month, maybe even longer than that, Pierre, I think I've said to you a couple times, the Bruins remind me a lot of the Caps last year. Because remember, the Caps had a very bad goal differential, but they still squeezed into the playoffs. The difference is, right now, if you ask me, are the Bruins going to make the playoffs? I'd say no. I don't see them having that. The Caps had something that the Bruins didn't have last year, and that was a lot of young, hungry players in their lineup, and also resilience. They really, throughout every time, how many times, Pierre, did you and I, and we don't know, we're fine admitting when we're wrong, and how many times did we have to come on here and say, okay, we were wrong. They're not out of it. Caps still in it. Oh, we were wrong again. Caps. And finally they made it, and good on them. And they parlayed that, obviously, that experience, as we discussed with John Walton earlier this week here. they've parlayed that experience into a wonderful season now. Obviously, some great off-season moves as well. But the Bruins are in big trouble right now. So this is a big game. They got the Panthers next. Here we were looking at their schedule, and really, they're in for it until Martin Luther King Day. They host the San Jose Sharks in a matinee. And we're not trying to knock the Sharks or anything because they've been playing some great hockey, but we're trying to say, okay, when could an actual first win come? And if you're kind of just looking at the games ahead, that was it because, the Caps are in playing. It'll be like 10 a.m. for them when it's a 1 p.m. start here. But there's still no sure win. But then you look past that and they still play another 5 really hard games that are maybe not winnable for them the way they're playing. So, the Bruins could essentially finish January with 2 wins. I know that sounds insane right now. People are like, you're overreacting, Murph. You're just being negative. I'm trying to just be realistic. I don't want them to do poorly. I have no rooting interest against them. But I'm just telling it like it is. And as we've said constantly, Pierre, it wasn't the coach. It was the lineup. It was completely the lineup. I mean, there were stats. I sent you something today. Let me pull that up quickly, and we'll move on from the Bruins in a second. Where the heck was it here? And of course, I can't find it now. Well, bottom line is there were about all the different categories, whether it be PK, power play, goals per game, goals against per game. They've all one of them went down. I believe it was the power play went down. The other 4 slightly went up. Nothing that moved the needle. They have not improved drastically. They basically stayed status quo since the coaching change on November 18th. This is an interesting time for the Boston Bruins and specifically Don Sweeney because he has to really, Pierre, do you think you agree with me? Look at the facts in front of him right now. Do I go all out at the deadline? Do I try to make an impact move or I just kind of say, you know what, I'm just going to let it go the way it's going and hope for the best?
I think he's going to try everything he can to get his team in the playoffs. Is
that the best thing for the future of this team, though?
I don't think he's worried about that right now.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I don't think he's worried about that. I think he's worried about getting his team in the playoffs. Bitter disappointments the previous 2 years. You can say whatever you want. Playoffs didn't provide what they was expected to provide after the regular seasons that they had. The goalie thing was mangled right from the start. The negotiation on the goalie, and I don't know. Here's one thing I want to be really careful here because it's important. It's important because I know people pick up what we say, and I have no problem with that. That's one of the reasons why we do this show. We just want more and more people to watch and listen and pick it up and use it if they want to. Donnie Sweeney was in a tough spot. I don't know whether ownership told him this is as far as you can go. I don't know if somebody above Donnie, whether it's Cam Neely or somebody else, said you can't go any further with the negotiation on Swayman. But that negotiation wasn't handled properly.
No.
People can say whatever I'm just telling you, and it's not enough. I think Donnie might have had his hands tied. And I'm not trying to pick a fight with anybody. I'm just telling you that. So we talked about it on the show, and I don't think anybody picked that up. But he said this is going to create a problem coming out of the gate. The goalie's not going to be ready. You can practice all you want with college players. That's fine. There might be 1 or 2 guys on a team in Division I that might be able to play in the NHL in a year or 2 from now. That's it.
Yeah. So
that whole thing was a problem. Injury to Hampus Lindholm has been a problem.
Nobody talked about that except us either.
Yeah, lack of depth at center has been a problem. I think Marchand's 2 surgeries last summer have been a big problem. So you start doing the math. I mean, I don't care what anybody says about Jimmy Montgomery. I'm telling you right now, Jimmy Montgomery's an elite coach in the league. But you asked me, will they make a move going into the deadline? Well, they already made 1 move. They fired a really good coach to try to get the players' attention. They're not firing a second coach. Joe Sacco's not getting fired. Not this year, he's not. So what are they going to do to help him? Because the roster that he has is the same one Montgomery had.
Yeah. And the other thing too, Pierre, when you're looking at, making a trade that could really help your team, obviously sometimes you have to use first-round picks to acquire a player to do that. Remember why they traded Allmark so early? What the reasoning was, what Don Sweeney said? He said, I get what you're saying that I should have never traded him until the contract was done with Swayman. But do you remember what he said specifically? Why? He said, I needed that first-round pick because I have traded away so many over the last few years that I wanted to make sure we had a first round pick in this draft, meaning the past draft that just happened.
Yep.
Now he has a first round pick in 2025. So if he's saying that then, and it's an emphasis, right, that he wants to start to stockpile through the draft and start to build through the draft again, how willing is he going to be to use that first round pick this time? And therefore, can he get the player he needs? If he's not willing to use it, can he get the player?
Yeah, you can't predict that one way or the other. Nobody knows. Like there's 31 other teams.
It depends on
too. So I'm getting Jimmy Murphy, and I'm going to get him now. And then all of a sudden, Ottawa says, "No, we want Jimmy Murphy," and buzz off. You're not getting him. Yeah. It's like you don't think a lot of people knew how good the Sedins were. A lot of people knew how good the Sedins were, but they didn't know as much as Brian Burke did.
No,
from the '99 draft. Yep. Go look at the '99 draft. Just go if you're a fan of hockey. Go look at the '99 draft. Mm-hmm. There's only one guy that stole that draft, Brian P. Burke. That's it.
He did.
So that's where with drafting you can say, well, we want to get this player, we want to get that player, and unfortunately you can't because somebody else took them. They liked them as much as you did.
Speaking of drafting, Pierre, we always hear these days, especially obviously since the salary cap came into effect, and it's we're not knocking the teams that want to build through the draft. You can still build your team through the draft, and you want to get as much homegrown talent as you can. Obviously, and we get that. And I mean, I think the Capitals, the team we just mentioned earlier, are an example of how well teams can do that way. But it's not the end all be all, right? And we're looking right now, the situation in Chicago with Connor Bedard and what's around him and what they may have ahead with the rebuild going. And, we've said it on here. We've said it to each other off the air. This is going to be a much longer rebuild than people think. And you said appropriately, in my opinion, and I think you might have said it on here, but you can tell them, what did you compare this to?
Edmonton Oilers. So I did an exercise with Jimmy yesterday, and I wanted to show or see how everybody says, oh, the best way to do this is stockpile as many picks as you can, and within 2 to 3 years, you're going to hit pay dirt. So I'm going to give you a little example of how that's just such a fundamentally flawed ideology. In 2010, the Edmonton Oilers were proud to select Taylor Hall, number 1 overall. In 2011, the Edmonton Oilers were proud to select Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, number 1 overall. In 2012, the Edmonton Oilers were proud to select Nail Yakupov, number 1 overall. In 2015, the Edmonton Oilers were proud to select Connor McDavid, number 1 overall. From 2006 until 2017,
excuse me,
do you know how many playoff games the Edmonton Oilers played with all those first overall picks? 0.
Goose egg.
0. So when you say we're going to get these picks and no, there's no guarantee.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know Mario Lemieux was drafted in 1984, first overall? Do you know when he played his first playoff game?
Was it
1989?
I was going to say 89. I swear.
1989.
Yep. It takes a while.
So I'm going to give you one more because it's important. And we're not picking on Edmonton, different people there. We're just
criticizing ideology.
This is just the facts. Like you can't argue with the numbers. The numbers are not my numbers. They're not Jimmy's numbers. These are the numbers. So, if you're mad, too bad. Tell them to fix the numbers. Those are the numbers. The Buffalo Sabres, 13 years in a row, probably 13 years in a row have missed the playoffs. They've had 7 coaches. They've had 3 GMs and no playoffs.
And a boatload of first-round picks.
A ton of picks.
Yep.
2 of them on defense, by the way, that were first overall.
Exactly.
Owen Power and Rasmus Dahlin.
And much like Edmonton eventually, after not making the playoffs so long and just nothing changing, traded Taylor Hall. Buffalo did the same with Jack Eichel. It's like that's it. It's just
Eichel was number 2. Eichel was 2 in a draft that had a pretty good first overall. But
What I'm trying to say is
First overall in that draft was pretty good.
eventually they had to trade away their centerpiece that they thought was going to bring them to the promised land. Because
But how many people talk? Like, I'm just asking you this, Jimmy, and this is just for our viewers and listeners too, because I know we get really passionate people. I love that, by the way. I think it's great. How many people really talk? These are in a row: Taylor Hall, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Nail Yakupov, and then 3 years later, I didn't even count Draisaitl because he wasn't first overall. And then 3 years later, Connor McDavid. Those are all first overall picks.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
no playoffs for 10 years.
Yeah,
they went to the Stanley Cup final in 2006.
Game 7. Yep, they did. And then, Pierre, I think, and I want to ask you this, in terms of the ideology that proves incorrect, do you think it came, do you think people start to think that way because of what happened with Pittsburgh out of the lockout, where they got Crosby? They had already gotten Fleury right before the lockout, and then they get Mal. Do you think they looked at Pittsburgh and said, well, hey, look what happened with them. We can do it. A lot of things have to fall into place. And they did a lot of other things to build their way to being a cup champion in 2009. There were a lot of other things that were done by management and their scouting department to build that champion, so to speak.
Anybody that watches this show and listens to it knows I'm really partial to Ray Shero because he understands the concept of team building. He grew up in a hockey house where the father his whole life was hockey.
Yep.
Hockey. And I had the amazing privilege of knowing Fred Shero really well. And what I can tell you is he was a hockey brain. There weren't a lot like that. Maybe Harry Sinnen, maybe Scotty Bowman, maybe Sam Pollock. There weren't a lot like Freddie. I'm just telling you, they weren't. And so if you're the son and you're growing up in that house, you identify and understand the importance of team building. So think about some of these players that Pittsburgh had that they had drafted or gone after that nobody talks about. Like when they traded away Jordan Stahl, you think Ray Shero really wanted to trade Jordan Stahl? It was his first early pick that he ever had. But he knew Jordan wasn't going to be happy playing in a number 3 hole behind Malkin and Crosby.
Mm-hmm.
So he makes a huge trade, with Carolina, and look at what he gets. He gets Sutter as one of them, Brandon Sutter, and he gets big people on defense. Brian Dumoulin was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like he gets players. So these are guys that are all part of this growth of Pittsburgh. You brought it up. I didn't bring Pittsburgh up, but I'm just showing you. They get Mark Eaton into Pittsburgh. He's a kid from Delaware, the first ever player born in the state of Delaware to win the Stanley Cup, Mark Eaton. They go out and get Ron Hainsey. Like, I'll give you all the guys that they bring in. Hal Gill. Like, they bring it all. So they understand the concept of team building, and they understand one other thing. If you don't have defense, you can't win.
Exactly.
So Jimmy's really nice because he sends me all the social media stuff that I don't do. And he says, what do you think of this? He doesn't make statements. He asks questions. So he sent me something today. Can I do it?
Yeah, you can. And you got to tell him how the call went down, too, that you didn't see the emoji.
So I see this, and I go, Jimmy, are you serious? Why would you send me this? This is way off the track. What are you doing? And he says, Pierre, you didn't see the emoji underneath. And so I'm gonna let you
right now.
I know I'm gonna let you take over. I want you to take over.
Well, I'm just gonna say, and I'm not gonna name the writers or who posted it or anything. It was just a headline that the Edmonton Oilers are looking for defensemen on the trade market. And the immediate thought in my head is, no bleep, Sherlock. Like, how is this news, right? How is this a headline?
So then I
sent him the link, and right under the link is I put that laughing emoji where the guy's laughing so hard he's crying like I am right now. But Pierre doesn't see that, and he calls me. He's like, Jimmy, do I not tell you to stay out of this drama? You know better than this. Don't get into that. That's bogus. It's obvious they're looking for defense. Why would you even? And I said, Pierre, look at the emoji. I agree.
So I had to apologize. I said, darn, my bad. I'm so sorry on that. I didn't see that because I'm not. I don't really do this stuff. Anyways, long story short, I said, Jimmy, they lost Broberg to St. Louis for nothing.
Yeah, and nobody mentions this in this story either. It's amazing.
So they lost Broberg. I sent this all to Jimmy. Cody Cece's playing in San Jose, and Vincent Desharnais is in Vancouver. So those are 3 of at least their top 7 guys in defense in Edmonton.
Guys in that cup run
You
last
would think they'd be looking for defense.
year. They've been looking for defense since the season started.
Come on. How is that? So I guess my point is team building is important, but understanding the need for defense is even more important. And
how about remember when Lindholm went down and a few games in, you and I are saying, man, they miss him out there.
There's a problem.
So I go out, and we're talking Hampus Lindholm with the Boston Bruins, by the way.
Yeah.
And I, people are asking me on Twitter, I'll interact with fans and they're saying, what do you think they need to get on a trade market? They really need scoring, Jimmy. They need a winger. And I said, yeah, I mean, I agree. But I think right now they really need a defenseman to kind of, be a stopgap while Lindholm's out until he comes back, because they're missing him. Oh, Lindholm's overrated. He's overpaid. Really? Go look at their stats since Hampus Lindholm has been out of the lineup and look at how bad that defense has gotten. Okay? 31st in the league.
There's two guys missing there. One is Hampus Lindholm. My partner's spot on. He is spot on. And the other guy's playing in Pittsburgh, Matt Grzelcyk, and he plays with Erik Karlsson.
And he was a great transporter. He was a puck transporter that they don't really have.
You can say whatever you want. Like I know they wanted to get bigger. That's their choice. I get all that. I get no. If they say, look, this is what we need to do because we haven't had success in the playoffs and we need to get bigger, no problem.
No problem.
But if you're going to ask me who they miss, they're an easier team to forecheck because they don't have Hampus Lindholm and they don't have Matt Grzelcyk.
Right.
That's
and
all.
when sometimes I love what you said about defensemen too, Pierre. Like I think it was Scotty Bowman who told me on this podcast or maybe on the phone or something. He says, "Remember this one thing, Jimmy. You can never have too many defensemen.
Never,
ever."
Never.
And it's so true because you think all the injuries that can happen, whether it's regular season like with Lindholm, but more so in the playoffs. The playoffs are a marathon. If you're going to go deep, you need as many D-men as you can have. And they may not be the sexiest guys. They may not be, like a top 4 guy. But, hey, if one of your top 4 guys goes down and you have a steady 6 or 7 or guy that's been watching from up top that can come down and just keep it steady there and get the job done, that's huge in the playoffs.
It's
Absolutely.
Amazing. I'm so happy you would say that, Jimmy. The way you did was really good. So here it's funny. So you look at all these teams that there's huge expectation. Toronto made one significant move in the offseason. They hired a new coach. And the new coach comes in and he says, I got to get some beef on the back end.
Yep.
Like they're too easy to play against. I got to get some beef. Christopher Tanev is part of the Toronto Maple Leafs. I know he was there before, but Simon Benoit's got a pronounced job with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Jake McCabe is usually playing on the right side. He can play both sides, but he's playing on the left side now. And I know he's hurt, but Jake McCabe gets a more pronounced role with this team now. So you look at the Toronto Maple Leafs, and Oliver Ekman-Larsson comes in.
Yep.
They're a legitimate candidate to compete for the Stanley Cup. I didn't say win. They're a legit candidate to compete for it. Whereas all those other years, I remember telling you, they could do whatever they want. They're never winning with that D. No chance.
Yeah.
No chance are they winning with that D. No chance.
Yeah, you did.
Now they do.
Now look at them. Look at them. I mean, they're what you want your lineup to look like as you head into the playoffs for sure. Pierre, one lineup that right now doesn't look like they want it to look like, but it's not their fault, is the Minnesota Wild. They are
injury. Jeez Louise.
One thing after another with them right now. Like let's just hear. I'm going to pull up Bruce.
Well, hey, look at Brock Faber. Everybody knows we're huge fans of Brock Faber. That was a great move by their pro scouting staff and Ray Shero and Billy Guerin. That was an amazing move. We talk about Jared Spurgeon. I think he's another one of those injured guys, right, Jimmy?
Yep.
So you got 2 of their top 4 guys in defense that are out.
Jonas Brodin.
And there's 3 of their top 4. 3 of their top 4 guys are out.
Yep.
For tonight. They play Colorado tonight. Now, Colorado had a tough loss in Chicago last night. Give Chicago credit for that.
Yep.
But I don't know how Johnny Hines and his group are keeping it together with all the injuries.
Top. I mean, it's
just amazing. It's amazing to me.
Yeah. And by the way, Jurasek will make his Wild debut tonight. So,
Well, good opportunity for him. I hope he makes the most of it.
yep.
It's just been okay for him in the American League. I'm not going to pretend.
No.
It hadn't
That's
been
why they
like,
called up the other guy there last week.
yeah,
Right?
it hadn't been great. Like, he's been okay. I wouldn't say he's been superhuman in the American League.
Yep. I'm with you on that. Want to remind everybody, too, don't forget tomorrow. We taped it today. It was a great time. We had a really good interview on Campus Friday with Hobart head coach Mark Taylor joined us. He was great. Good call by you to have him on, Pierre. Really,
Fun.
had a lot of fun learning about him and his background.
A lot of fun.
Salted earth type guy. He's the type of guy, and as Pierre said when we were coming on, just, coach, we like to have it where we're just hanging out, like we're at a pub, we're shooting the breeze. And he's the type of guy that I would love to sit down at a pub with accidentally and listen to his stories.
They were good. He was good.
And go away. So, what was speaking of Hobart? So, what was the big college bar there when you were there, Pierre? Was there
the Twin Oaks? There was one called the Twin Oaks Bar and Grill that doesn't exist anymore. No, the school bought that property and tore it down.
Okay,
but there was one that I worked at in the summertime. The gentleman that still is a proprietor still, Ronnie Schneider, one of my favorites. Ronnie gave me steady employment through college, especially in the summers when I would stay there and train. And salt of the earth guy. And you know who his favorite team is, Jimmy? And the whole bar is decorated to your favorite team.
Notre Dame?
Correct.
I knew it.
Correct. Everything's got little fighting leprechauns all over the place. And he's Ronnie Schneider you talk salt of the earth. He's an amazing guy from Central New York. He was a high school teacher at Geneva High School, and just an amazing man. And I'm always grateful. Whenever I go by there, I come off the thruway, I drive up to Ronnie's, I have a hamburger, and I try to see him when I'm there. Haven't been there in a few years, but I'd love to see him again. But what a guy. What an amazing guy. So that's still there. It's a legendary place. All my friends that go there, they have kids that play sports or play against Hobart and William Smith. So they say, where's a good place to go? I say, go to Ronnie Cedar and tell him I sent you. I used to work there, Jimmy. I worked there 3 or 4 summers.
You slinging drinks or what?
No, I didn't do the drinks.
Okay.
I was doing other stuff like busting tables and making cheeseburgers and that stuff.
Hey, those are the guys.
I didn't sling any drinks. That was only for the experienced people.
You were the grinder, the PK, the pen.
I was grinding.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? That would be a good place to be tonight for sure. And
it would be. It'd be a really good place to be tonight.
I'll give a shout out too. I know they watch sometimes. The Brennan's in Holyoke. That was my spot, Pierre. It was a big Notre Dame bar. And
I remember you told me. You told me. Yeah.
So brought Bill the Spaceman Lee in there one time. That was an adventure. And Mitch Melnick actually went in there as well. So, all right, listen. Let's remind everybody as you see the new logos down there on the screen to each side of the Sick Podcast eye test logo is West End Johnny's and the Public House, McLean's Public House in Montreal. So coming up in February, the first 2 Mondays in February, Pierre and I will be broadcasting live from West End Johnny's, 138 Portland Street in Boston. If you're standing in front of TD Garden and you're looking across the street, you're going to be looking right at Canal. You would go down from your right. You would go down 2 blocks. That's where you'll go Portland Street. And then you'll walk down about 100 yards. You'll find us there on the right side, right on the corner. That's West End Johnny's. Really cool place. A lot of players, management, scouts. Now, I guess Pierre, I was talking to the owner, Johnny Caron, and he said the one at Fenway, they have a Fenway Johnny's as well. It's part of the Fenway Park now. It's hooked into Fenway. And when they have concerts there, he's had the likes of Lady Gaga, Paul McCartney have strolled into West End Johnny's and had a cocktail or something to eat. So it's a hot spot for celebrities. So, hey, besides seeing Mr. Pierre McGuire, you might see some other celebrities on February 3rd and February 10th. And then we will be headed north to Montreal the following week. Actually, the next day, right after February 10th, we'll get up there the 11th, and we will be there on the 12th, the 13th, and the 15th, 6 to 7 p.m. each night for the Four Nations face-off. And then the following week, we'll be back at West End Johnny's in Boston when the Four Nations Face-Off switches down to Boston there. And we'll be same broadcast times for the 2 days there. We'll be there 6 to 7 p.m. each day. So come join us there. We're really looking forward to that. And I'll tell you too, Pierre, I watched the podcast on Johnny Caron. It was from actually during COVID when we were all stuck inside, when we couldn't do anything and the lockdown was on, and he was just telling some amazing stories. So I'm really looking forward. He's your type of guy, Pierre. I'm looking forward to you meeting him. And we're going to have a great time. They're really excited about that in McLean's Public House. And of course, I'll be January 24th down at Sacred Heart University prior to the games there for CT Ice. The 4 D1 teams from Connecticut are playing in honor of Jason Pagney. So really looking forward to that. When I have a link, they're going to be having a silent auction. They have over 12 NHL teams have donated gifts to put into that auction. So when I have a link for that, I'll give it to you guys here. We'll post it and you can get on that and help out with the charities that are involved. All right, Pierre, let's get to Betway right now. You go all the way with Betway and get a free bet up to $200 if your first bet loses. Again, you get money even if you lose. Scan the QR code right in front of you or go to the informational section there on the website and sign up in the details section and redeem the welcome offer. Remember, this is only an offer for new customers there at Betway. It is not valid in Ontario. And remember, you must be 18 plus and terms and conditions apply. Always bet responsibly. Let's go to my sick pick of the day. What do we got?
It's time for Sick Picks. Brought to you by Betway.
All right. Well, not to pour it on those poor Boston Bruins, but I'm liking the Lightning -1.5. You can get them at plus 200 value right now. Plus 200. So you bet 100. They win by 2 goals. You win $200. So I'm liking the Lightning -1.5. And also the Edmonton Oilers are going into Pittsburgh. They have owned the Pittsburgh Penguins. Penguins are having a tough time right now. Win or lose, I still like the Oilers to score a lot of goals. So you go over there right now to Betway, get the team total goals for the Oilers at over 3.5 goals. So that means they need to score 4 goals for you to win, and you can get that at -130. Really looking forward to that. So go over to Betway right now and do my sick picks or whatever else you like. All right, let's get to that Q&A. What do we got? All right, Bert L. Question. Out of the current crowded crop of Blackhawks defensive prospects, who do you guys expect to stick around in the NHL roster when Chicago exits the rebuild? That's a good question. I don't know.
Vlasic and Korchinski are 2 for sure. And then we'd have to see what they do in free agency or what they do in the trade market. But those 2 guys are going to be there. And they're going to be there for a while.
Yeah.
They'll be there for a while.
Let me ask you this, Pierre, and we're looking way ahead here, so don't have to answer if you want. We get to the NHL draft, and let's say the Hawks are the number 1 pick again somehow.
It's not even close. Matthew Schaefer, thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thank you.
Not even close.
Thank you very much. All right. We're in agreement there, and I think everybody else should be too because that's what they need right there. All right, next question. Ron LaRoque. So Pierre LeBrun is reporting the Devils are interested in Jake Evans. Okay. Ron, so you're thinking that maybe we're saying should they entertain a trade offer from the Devils? I don't know what your question is there, but I saw that as well. But as Pierre and I have stated, and I maintain my stance on this, I think the Canadians need to keep Jake Evans, and I believe they will.
I'm also going to say that Renaud Lavoie, who is a very honorable reporter, wouldn't just throw it out there. I've known Renaud a long time. He put out that, Montreal's already started negotiating with Jake. So maybe Jake's camp doesn't want to do it. And if they don't want to do it, well, then, Montreal's got to move him. They can't lose him for nothing. That being said, I'd be surprised if you don't want to stay. But I sent Jimmy something today about taxation in Canada. And it's going to get harder for NHL players. It's going to get a lot harder.
Already to the point where you have some players, former and current, fighting their taxes and trying to have to pay less. So anyhow, listen, and one thing I'll say too, Pierre, and I think you'll echo me on this too, is at this time of year and as we get closer to the trade deadline, with players that are on expiring contracts that are obviously going to be in the rumor mill, and you see when teams are interested, I'm not debating Pierre LeBrun. I'm not doubting that the Devils are interested in him. All I'm going to say is a lot of times, and I've had it done to me, agents feed us reporters. They'll feed you, hey, I got X, Y, and Z teams. They want this guy. They'll throw him a first rounder. All they're doing there is they're trying to increase his value, whether it's his value on the trade market and then, looking forward to the open market, or it's the value to the team. So, if Kent Hughes says, well, man, this guy must be really valuable. I really got to sign him. I really got to give him a little more than I thought. Just be wary that stuff goes on. There's a lot of games.
Well, I can say this. I can tell you this, and I hope he's watching. I worked for Brian Burke, and I remember GMs used to call him. It was Berkey's first GM job in Hartford, and he was really good at it. He was good at it. And guys would call him up and try to intimidate him. Oh, you better do this. And he goes, good luck. Good luck. And Berkey was so good at it.
Yeah.
And he will never get enough credit for it because the team doesn't play in Hartford anymore. But he was the architect, the engineer, and the deliverer on getting the Pronger deal done. And it was a convoluted deal. And it involved Calgary, and it involved San Jose, and it involved Hartford. And Brian figured out a way to do it, and he's the one that did it. And that was a massive deal. It was massive for all three teams, but in particular, huge for Hartford.
Yeah, Berkey's a great hockey mind. The only thing I disagree with that Berkey did was getting rid of Brass Bonanza while you're there. That's the only thing I had a problem with.
The Dallas Cowboy uniforms, so the blue and the gray.
Is that what that came from?
That was, because Roger Staubach was one of our owners.
No way. I never knew that. Wow. I always wondered why they did that. I was a big fan. Too bad they didn't have the Cooperalls when you were there, eh, Pierre?
No.
The green Cooperalls.
That was a bad idea. The Cooperalls were a bad idea.
All right, next question. A to Z me. I have a feeling we're going to see a very busy trade deadline window. Lots of teams in contention. Which team do you guys think will be the busiest? One thing I'll say, A to Z me, I wonder if we see a little more action earlier than usual. Thing.
I agree with Jimmy. I'm going to say one guy that doesn't run with the herd is Jimmy Rutherford in Vancouver. And I would say that they're in a position where they're going to have to do something.
Mm-hmm.
He and Patrick Alvin, they know. Patrick's on the road with the team now. They lost again last night, even though they get the loser point in Washington. They still lost the game. And did you get a report on JT Miller? Like, is he okay? He got hit in the board
yet. Yeah.
Haven't seen anything yet. Yeah, so I don't know. So I wouldn't put anything past Jimmy in Vancouver. I still think Edmonton is going to be proactive. I don't think that's a secret. I think they know they need to win. And watch Detroit. If they start to keep building like they are right now under Todd McClellan, watch Detroit.
Yep. Yeah. And it might not just be a move for the present, Pierre. That could be something.
Yeah. No, just watch. They got a lot of assets. We've been really consistent on Detroit. I know a lot of people have been going after them. We're not two of the guys that have.
No.
We know what they have coming.
I'll throw another team in there too. Dallas.
Well, they showed last year they weren't afraid to swing for the fence. I mean, going out and getting Tanev was pretty substantial.
Yeah. I wonder if they'd get a center, Pierre, just depending on what's going on with Sagan. So we'll see.
We'll see.
All right, next question. Alex Ivanowski. Jimmy, I think if you're the Bruins, you have to trade for Pettersson. I think the question is, do you give up futures like Poitras or players on the roster like Lindholm? Obviously, a first-round pick as well. I think you got to give up both. I think it's going to be a blend of roster and future.
You think Vancouver would take Lindholm back?
No, I think they're talking about Hampus Lindholm.
Oh, I wouldn't move him. Sorry.
No, I wouldn't either, but I think that's somebody that Vancouver would covet.
They would, for sure.
Yep. But he's got to waive his no move too, and I don't know if he wants to do that. He's pretty comfortable here in Boston.
Well, no, the one thing though you got to remember, Sedins are there.
Bingo. I was just going to say that. That's the asterisk.
They're substantial. They got a lot of swagger around the Swedish players. Look, Vancouver's a good market. It is, and it's a well-run team. It is a well-run team.
Yep.
So I don't know.
Who knows?
If you're a Swede and the Sedins are there, that's pretty substantial.
All right, next question. Postnet on 130. Tuck, Jack Guy, Davidson, great fourth line in the making. When do you see this happening? Great call, Postnet.
Awesome, on the mark. We've been talking about it probably since the early part of November. Not so much Davidson because he was not playing on that line when I was watching Laval play a lot, but he is now. And yeah, no, that's they just have to keep growing their brand. But Florian keeps getting better. Luke's figuring out he's got to be physical every night to make stuff happen. And Davidson can score. He's got good hands and he can score and shoot the puck.
Yep, good call. All right, next question. Shane Boyven, what position off your cup-winning 7-player profile is the easiest and what's the most difficult to acquire?
Number one center is the most difficult to acquire. Shutdown defenseman's probably the easiest to acquire.
Okay. Next question. Randy Workman, should the Bruins ask about Zegers from the Ducks? I'm giving a hard no, Randy. Pierre?
Like you've said,
Okay. We're in agreement.
For me. You've spoken for me.
All right, next question. Jason Logan, do you think Quinn Hughes is so underrated in the league? You don't really hear much about him. I would take him in Pittsburgh in a heartbeat. They can have Carlson.
Whoa. Stop.
Jay, we love you, Jay. We love you, but he's not.
Time out.
Yeah.
Quinn Hughes isn't underrated. He won a Norris Trophy.
Yeah.
He's going to be a superstar at the Four Nations. Like, he's not underrated.
Luke Hughes, maybe.
Huh?
Maybe Luke Hughes is underrated. I don't know. I think
he's just a kid.
Yeah.
He's just a kid. Quinn Hughes is not underrated.
Yeah. Quinn Hughes isn't underrated, Jay, and we love you. We know you know your hockey, but respectfully disagree with that. All right.
No, but I like hearing from him, but that one, no. That's not a good one.
Next question. Chris Blue Shirts. Hey, guys, it's been a while. Happy New Year to you and your loved ones. I'm feeling good about the – thank you, Chris. You too. I'm feeling good about the Rangers. I think that they will turn it around. Elite coaching and elite players. Your thoughts? Chris? I think you had I love your positivity. I love your optimism, but I will respectfully disagree. I think they're screwed.
I want to see what happens tonight with Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the 3-0 lead against Dallas, they had to do something to get that 3-0 lead. The fact they lost the lead and lost the game, I see where Chris would say, you know what, we had the 3-0 lead. It was positive.
Yeah.
My concern is I know Shesterkin's back tonight. I know Kaliev's going to get a chance to play tonight, the kid they just got from L.A. On waivers. I just don't know how much damage was done in that dressing room. And my question, and I asked this yesterday to Johnny Lazarus, how come none of those defensemen are better than they were a year ago? What's gone on there?
Yeah.
And like Phil Halsey's a really good coach. I'm just telling you, he's a really good coach. So something's gone on there because none of those defensemen, not one of them, is better than they were a year ago. Not one of them.
I hear. All right, next question. Ron LaRoque, Jimmy, with Brad Marchand being 37, do you think he retires after this year? I honestly didn't think he was that old. Wow. Yeah, he is, but now you're making me feel old. But you know what? I don't know. I don't know. You know, Pierre and I, as we mentioned already about him, you wonder with the health right now. That's the big question. Does he come out of this season and say, man, I wasn't as good as maybe I thought I was health-wise? I don't know. I'm not in his head. I hope not. I hope that's not the end. But I think it's a possibility. If
I'm a team that thinks they have a chance to win, I'm calling Donnie Sweeney every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's going to be an interesting situation.
Every day.
Yeah.
That kid still got game. I remember having this talks just like this with Mitch Melnick about Mark Recchi when he went to Boston. I remember Pierre, are you sure? He's your friend. You're probably biased. I have a relationship in a positive way with Brad too. You know, I travel a lot of different places with him. It has nothing to do with that. I'm just telling you, the guy could help a lot of teams win.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if you're a team that thinks you're this close, get him. I'm not saying he's available. Please. Like Donnie Sweeney's probably watching this, throwing stuff at his screen, but I'm not saying he's available. But if he is, and the Bruins don't want to sign him because they're worried, move him.
Yep. You can get a second rounder.
Yeah, he better.
Yeah. That's what I would think, for sure. All right, next question. Alex Ivanovsky, I hate to ask this, but how bad is the big picture in Buffalo? Are they going to have to tear this down again? Is it not as drastic? I fear for Sabres fans. Does a new GM fix it? Alex, I think the last thing you're saying there, I think if they do go in a different direction with the GM position, I have no indications that they are at this point. But if they did, I think it could be fixed a lot faster than if they don't. And even if they keep the same GM, bring in somebody to work with them that's objective and hasn't, is just coming in, seeing it with a different point of view. I think that's the key. They need a lot of people to start seeing things from a different point of view there. That's what I'd say about the Sabres.
I don't think Buffalo's as bad as their record. And I don't think this is on Lindy Ruff either.
Nope.
I don't. It's just there's a malaise they're trying to work out there. Rochester's still a really competent team in the American League. They got some guys coming. No, I would not be negative about Buffalo. I said before, if they're looking for somebody to, help Kevin Adams out, the guy they should hire is Ray Shero.
Sure.
You want to get an established guy that brings instantaneous credibility to your marketplace, hire him as president of hockey operations.
Yeah. And he's just come in and he'll give a different point of view and work with Adams.
That's one.
I think that's the
if you
best
don't
one.
want him, go get Kenny Holland.
Yep.
There's lots of guys that I think are really competent that could do that job, and Kevin wouldn't have to lose his job.
Yep. There we go. All right, next question. Posting it on 1:30. If a team gets beat badly to a rival team, I assume future dates are circled on the calendar for payback. Fair play, assume. Pierre's been in locker rooms more than me when the media is not in there. So he can speak to that better than me. But I would imagine. I've had players tell me, I can't wait till we play those bleeps again. If you have pride, I think that definitely happens.
That happens at every level of hockey. Every level of hockey. College hockey, junior hockey, American League, European pro, every level. It just happens. Yeah, no, 100%. It's there. Yeah.
For sure. All right, next question. Jordan James or Joe Twelvedon James. Pierre, I heard you say Fowler has Brodeur comparables. How about Trey Augustine?
They're different style of goalies, in my opinion. Fowler is a little bit more the way Marty played, makes himself look big in goal. Augustine, sometimes you saw it at the World Junior. He's a bigger guy, but sometimes he's a little off the angle, so I don't see the same. But Augustine's good. They're so deep with young goalies. Sebastian Koss is one of them in Detroit. Carter Guylander's another one of them in Detroit. Trey Augustine is another one of them in Detroit. Like they got depth in goal. They really do. They've done a really nice job of that. But I think Fowler's more similar to Marty. And the other part that I like about Fowler is he's got a little bit of a swagger to him. Like you saw him get kicked out of the game in Connecticut. Mm-hmm. I watched him play a bunch of games live, and he pushes back. And even when he doesn't have his A game, and not every goalie has their A game every day, he has its ability to make a timely save that's pretty amazing. It really is. So that's why I think mentally and physically he's a little bit more like Brodeur. Augustine's not like that.
All right, next question. Hockey Puck. A long due historical question, guys. Will the Habs organization ever put Jacques Lemaire's jersey up there with his teammates where it belongs? I'll let Pierre take this. Pierre was around for those great teams.
He was number 25. He was so good for so long. I remember hearing great stories about him when he was playing junior hockey for Scotty Bowman, and I don't know whether they'll do it or not. It's hard for me as an outsider to their great brand, but as a kid that grew up watching, he was really good, Jimmy.
Pierre, forgive me for not knowing off the top of my head. Has there been another really outstanding 25 that would be worthy of going up to the rafters that's not there other than Lemaire? Because I know sometimes that's the problem, right? Teams will have guys.
I know. It's like, I'll give it. No, I don't think there is. So, but I was so happy when Larry got up there. Larry Robinson.
That was
took a while to get it up there. It took a while. So I don't know what their process is on that. I've never talked to Jeff Molson about it, and I don't know if Kent or Jeff Gorton have ever brought that up to the Molson family, but I think they should look at that. Honestly, I do. I think it's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up. That was really good.
And I will say this before we move on from that too, Pierre. One thing that Kent and Jeff have been, and obviously Molson with them, but have been really great about since they came in as a tandem there, has been bringing the alumni back into the fold and patching up some differences there, making a point to do that. So
Long overdue.
Maybe on that note, it happens. We'll see. We'll see.
I have no problem sharing this with you. I know I've talked to you about it off the air. This is for the listeners out there. I brought it up in my last interview, which was at the Marriott Hotel at the Montreal airport. And I flew in because I had to fly right out because I had a game to do that night. And I met with them. And one of the things I talked to them about, and there was, pretty significant people in there, Michael Landlauer, Jeff Molson, Kevin Gilmore, Serge Savard, and an attorney from the team. And I apologize. I don't know who the attorney was, but they were all in there. And one of the things I brought up was the importance of acknowledging their alumni, having a better outreach with their alumni. And the number one thing I was going to try to do is bring Larry Robinson back to work on the coaching staff. I made that crystal clear. Crystal clear to them. Nice.
By the way, before we move on to the next question, our good friend Eric Open just texted me. He said, good point, Jimmy, on Dallas. They currently have 13.5 available via LTIR in terms of cap space. So that's an interesting point to watch out for. All right, next question. Randy Workman, do the Sabres trade Cousins or Byram or both? I wouldn't trade well, I shouldn't say either. I wouldn't trade Cousins. Byram, the only reason I trade him is just because of what you have ahead of him on the D. That's it. That's the only reason I trade him.
I'm still evaluating.
Yeah, I'm still there.
I'm not prepared to say one way or the other. I'm going to be watching pretty close.
All right, next question. Brad K. Okay, Brad K. This is a great question. I forgot to send the tweet to Pierre earlier because it's right as we were coming on the air. So Brad K. saying, will Rempe make it all 60 minutes today, or will he get 10 minutes and the boot? Let me get this right up for you. And great, I'm glad you asked that. Larry Brooks tweeted this about 2 hours ago. By the way, perhaps apropos to nothing, but Rempe has been in 3 games against the Devils. He's played a total of 503. He has 3 majors, 3 game misconducts, and 47 minutes of penalties.
So you can do this for me if you don't mind, because you're right there. Can you look up if Nathan Bastian's playing tonight for New Jersey?
I can. 1 second. But that's crazy. That's like Olgi Oglethorpe, Pierre. That stat right there. All right. What do we got here? So this is how they're looking. He is on the 4th line with Lazar at center and McDermott on the other wing.
So I'm going to say there's a good chance that he will not finish the game.
Me too.
It's either McDermott or Bastian's going to get him, or he's going to go after them.
Yeah, and just so we know, let's see. In terms of the Rangers, what their 4th line is looking like tonight. Let's see. What do we got? Rangers are coming at you with Edstrom, Carrick, and Rempe on their 4th line.
So I'll tell you one thing. Carrick can fight. He's a tough kid, and he knows how he got in the NHL. And he's got some skill too, but he can fight. He's a tough kid. Really tough kid.
All right. Let's
go to that's got the potential for shenanigans. So I don't know. Like I did the games when DeBoer was in New Jersey and Tortorella was in New York. I was there for a bunch of those. Let me tell you, they were funny.
They were great. All right. That's going to be one of those games where they're going to be a lot scouts. What?
Scouts. Contract.
Old time hockey? Lady Shore? All right. Next question. Joe Segreto, could Cole Caulfield replace Matthews in the Four Nations if his injury lasts another month? Yeah, I mean, I would keep him as an
two different positions.
Yeah.
That's number one.
Yeah.
It could. Based on the way Austin's playing right now, last 2 games he got 5 assists.
He looks pretty healthy.
He had 2 in Philly and 3 against Philly on Sunday. So he looked good to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I told you what the parameters are. It's got to be trust between the player and the trainer and the doctor. And then the doctor's got to sign off on it. That's the only way. If I'm Toronto, I'm letting that happen. If the doctor's not prepared to sign off on he can't injure himself anymore with what he has, then I'll let him play. But if they say, no, I'm not prepared to sign on that, I wouldn't let him play. It's just the way that's how I would do it.
All right, next question. Murray McDonald. Hi, Pierre. Realistically, would you add to the Habs or maintain position before March 7th? Any idea if Habs can move picks, assets to make the team better?
They could definitely move picks and even some assets to make their team better. I would rather evaluate at the end of January. I think if the Canadians keep this pace up, they're realistically a playoff team. But they're going to have to do what they just did post-Christmas. Going to Florida and win, going to Tampa and win, going to Vegas and win, lose in Chicago, next night going to Colorado and win, come home, which is a crazy trip, and beat Vancouver when you fell behind 3-1. If they can keep that up, they're going to make the playoffs. And then as a management team, you got to say, okay, how are we going to help these guys?
Yep.
So I think that's kind of where they are. So give me to the end of January, and then I'd say they don't have to do anything right now, but I'd say till the end of January, you'll get a better idea.
You know what we should do, Pierre? Like right before the Four Nations, we should do a looking ahead to the deadline show and just dedicate it to that. We don't have to.
Well, we can.
Kind of our evaluation of what teams need at that point, and if we think.
Well, that's a good way to do it. I like that idea. I'd rather, instead of speculating on players' names,
exactly.
This is a hard time of the year for all these guys, and I know fans don't give a poop about that. I know that. I get it.
Yep.
But they got families, they got kids. Like, I'm really sensitive to that because I've seen what it can do, and it's hard. So I'd rather identify if this team adds this, like defense, mobile defense, physical fourth line winger, number 3 center, whatever. Like that part of the exercise, I have no problem doing.
Right.
You ever ask me to give names, I'm not going to do that.
Nope, totally.
And I apologize to everybody out there. I'm not being a jerk. I just don't like doing that to the players.
No, I was asking you to do exactly what you just said. I think we look ahead.
Jimmy, you know how many times I told you, especially when we're in Ireland, like people don't realize these guys are human beings. Yeah. And like I'm really sensitive to that because I've seen what it's done to some guys, and it's not always great. I can tell you. Yep. It's not.
All right. Next question. Kathleen. What's up, Kathleen? Just to clarify, does the KHL play on an NHL size or European size ice?
NHL size. We talked about it yesterday, Kathleen. And so that just shows you there's an outreach. The KHL is reaching out to their players, to their coaches, to players in North America, and maybe to other players in Europe that, hey, it's not a big transition to go from our ice surface to the NHL ice surface because we're 200 by 85.
All right. We got 5 more. Let's go through them here. What do we got? Next question. Randy Workman, who's the most talented enforcer you have seen? I'm going to ever. I'm Pierre. Well, you got to not.
You go first. I got mine.
Okay. In my lifetime, I've been watching hockey since 1984. I'm going to say Bob Perwick.
It's a good answer.
All right.
I'm going to say John Ferguson Sr.
See, I didn't get to see him play, so yeah.
He played on Jean Beliveau's line, and Jean Beliveau got a lot of goals, and there's a lot of room. And this is hopefully there are a lot of veteran people watching this. They will appreciate. Go watch some fights of John Ferguson Sr. He was an amazing Jimmy. I worked for the man. He was an amazing human. I have so much respect for John. He was great at picking horses. He was great at picking hockey players. He was great at making guys very afraid of him. He was really good at a lot of stuff. I had so many fun nights with him in hockey rinks, so many great dinners with him. And obviously the people at the Sick Podcast are going to say Christopher Nyland out of Northeastern University.
He went through my head for sure.
But John, you ask anybody from that era, the John Ferguson Sr., he was a good player, and he was an amazing lacrosse player.
Yeah.
He was an amazing lacrosse player.
Pierre, I don't think you can put him, like, categorize him as an enforcer. But if no, not him. I'm thinking I've got another player going through my head here, but I don't think you can really categorize him as an enforcer. But if you could, I would have Cam Neely in there. I don't think you can.
He wasn't
right. He was a power.
No, they had other guys doing that job. He was just the intimidating guy.
They had Jay Miller.
They had other guy. Jay would be the first guy. And I don't know if you see Jay much anymore. I know he does a lot of fishing.
No, I see. He does a lot of alumni stuff. And you know what, Pierre? He's up here all the time with Kenny.
Oh, is he? Can you tell him? I said I've done a bunch of different things with him. I think he's such a good guy. You would never know. Like when you talk to Jay, you would never know. Like he was a freaking guy, man. He's such a nice human.
I used to have the
t-shirt. You see him, please. Can we get him on? I'd love to have Jay on.
I'll reach out to him. Yeah,
it would be really good to have
I used to have a T-shirt. They used to sell them outside the garden for $10. And is the old, you remember the old slogan for Miller Beer? It's Miller time.
Oh yeah.
In the 80s, that was the T-shirt, and it was Jay Miller, and then it had his number 29 on the back. It was a great one. All right, next question. Jason Logan. Hey guys, do you think Coach Mark is on a short leash? Coach Hill. I'm not sure who you're talking about, Jay. Coach Mark. Who are we talking about here? Rewrite that, Jay, and get it back to us. No problem. All right, next question. Postnet on 130. 4 nations face off. It's going to be awesome. All the teams are loaded with talent and skill. There could have been 2 to 3 teams each per country. What do you think? Any surprises, upsets? All I know is we're excited to be part of it, and we're excited to be doing those shows at McLean's Public House and West End Johnny's. And yeah, I think it's going to be exciting. I actually think too, everyone's anointing either USA or Canada as the winner. Don't sleep on Sweden. That's all I'm going to say.
No, don't sleep on Sweden for sure. I think that's fair. My question is, will the Finns have enough offense? I don't know. We'll see. Will the Swedes be offensively good enough through physicality they'll probably have to go through? So we'll see on that. The Americans, I don't know defensively how stout they're going to be. They're going to be really good offensively.
They're going to be skilled for sure.
And I wonder about the Canadian goaltending, and we'll see.
Yep.
There's no perfect team, even though everybody says, oh, they're all these guys. There's no perfect team in this one. Like, I could tell you right now, in 2014, when Canada went to the Olympics in Sochi, that wasn't even close.
Yeah.
And I kept telling it because I was working for an American network. I'm like, they're not even going to be close. The Americans, they're not. Like Canada was so far ahead of everybody else.
The scores could have been way worse. It was almost like Canada let up a bit. But
and Mike was coaching, Babcock was coaching, and it was like, you're doing this and you're doing this, and if you don't do it, you're not playing.
Yep.
And the guys got the message early.
Oh yeah. I remember watching that as the lone American in McLean's Pub. All right, next question. Ron LaRoque, did you ever talk about the TSU Tigers joining D1 hockey for the 25-26 season? Just the barriers are really coming down. Great to see mostly African-American athletes. Dante Abercrombie is the head coach. I did not even know about this, Ron.
I did. And so good for you, Ronnie, for picking it up. And I think there's going to be more situations like that, which is really positive. I know in South Carolina, for instance, when Clemson plays South Carolina, there's like 12,000 people at the game. Alabama plays Auburn in hockey. These are just club teams. They're getting like 9,000 people a game. So I see a day where there's going to be big college hockey in the South. And It's going to be not at the club level. It's going to be at the Division I level. I think if we can get to 100 teams, that'd be awesome. We're just around 70 now in Division I. And I think there's going to be an avenue for that because of what's going on with the CHL and college hockey and the eligibility rules changing. So, but good for Ron for picking that up because I am aware of it and I think it's going to be great.
All right, next question. Joe 12, Dan James, will the Rangers and Predators rebound for the second half of the season, make the playoffs to be determined? I'm not so confident about the Rangers.
I'm not confident about Nashville.
Yeah. And I hope they do. I got nothing against them. I mean,
My goodness gracious. There's so many good people involved with that organization.
Yeah, and it's good for the game when the Rangers are good. All right. Next
we
question.
need the Rangers good.
Scott Hayward, not Brian.
I did not. Dino was in San Jose.
Okay.
Dino was in San Jose. I'm friendly with Dean. I like him a lot. Talked to him a fair bit. He was a great, legendary Kamloops Blazer. I never coached Dean. I never did.
Right. I like it.
Most of those, when I got to Hartford, most of those guys were gone. Quenneville was gone. Evanson was gone. Tippett was gone. Just Mark Howe was obviously long gone. Who? Deneen was gone. No, okay. Kevin was gone. He was in Philly with his father. I'm just trying to think some of the other legendary Whaler guys. Ronnie Francis I had in Pittsburgh. Alfie Samuelson I had in Pittsburgh. Yeah. Like one of the only holdovers that I was fortunate enough to work with, and prince of a guy, tough as nails, Randy Ladouceur.
I was just going to ask, who's Randy Ladouceur there?
Tough as nails, strong as an ox, and a gentleman to work with, just an awesome human. Yeah. Really fun. Great guy. He was a prince in town. There's a good Brian Burke story. Anaheim kept threatening, well, if you don't protect him, we're going to take him. So why don't you give us some other stuff and then we won't take him? And Berkey goes, well, if you want him so bad, you can have him. And they took him. In the expansion draft.
What about one of the best names ever, Zarley Zalapsky? Was he there?
Well, I did. I had Zarley. I had Zarley in Pittsburgh too.
Wow.
Yeah. Zarley passed away a few years ago, very tragically. Mixed emotions, amazing talent, so strong, so physically strong and fit. One of the fittest guys you'd ever seen. Yeah. He could shoot the puck through the wall.
I remember I watched a lot of Bruins Whalers games with him.
I never really could tell how coachable Zarley was. I mean that because he had so much talent. You would kind of look at it and like, really? I don't have to do that. I could skate my way out of trouble, So that was the only thing. But I had a nice relationship with Zarley. I thought the world of him as a person. And when he passed, that was hard. It was really he's too young a guy to pass away. That kind of conditioning is unbelievable. From Leduc, I'll never forget it, from Leduc, Alberta, which is right next to the airport in Edmonton. Right next to it. Yep.
All right. Well, listen, great times here. Thanks for all your questions in the Q&A. We appreciate it as always. Thanks to our production crew up in Montreal. Thanks to you, Mr. Pierre McGuire. And again, tomorrow, it's already recorded. You can check in here at 4:00. There won't be a Q&A, but great interview we did with Hobart hockey head coach Mark Taylor. Really enjoyed it. So check that out tomorrow. But until we see you live on Monday, he's Pierre McGuire. I'm Jimmy Murphy. This has been another edition of the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.